Yes, in your neighborhood. My background, it's like I've got different backgrounds depending on what class I'm logging into. That doesn't really make sense to me. Anyway, it's nothing important. Share screen and start the recording. So we've started the recording. Can you see my desktop?
Yes, sir.
Good. Oh crap, I forgot to put it to share sound. Hold on, I'll be right back. I don't always need to share sound, but sometimes I do. $10.27. All right, let's talk about Marlowe and Ralegh. These are matching poems. We're pretty sure The Passionate Shepherd to His Love was written by Christopher Marlowe. The next reply is either by Sir Walter Raleigh or someone else. And first, let's see what kind of poem it is. We've had a lot of sonnets. This is not a sonnet. So let's come live with me and be my love. 8 syllables, half of 8. 4, what's the Latin word for 4? That game you used to play when you were kids on your granddad's computer, Tetris. So it's tetrameter, and then you have to decide where the emphasis is. Come live with me and be my love. It's very much the second syllable that gets the emphasis, and that makes it iambic tetrameter. And the reply, if all the world and love were young, same thing. So he's matching the original line by line and stanza by stanza. Love, prov, fields, yields, rocks, flocks, falls, galls. So it's AA, BB, CC, DD. Couplets arranged in quatrains. All right. And it is the shepherd to the nymph, and so this puts it in the pastoral tradition. There's a tradition both in classical Greek and Roman and in biblical poetry. The Lord is my shepherd by one former shepherd is a pastoral poem. In these poems that idealize the pasture and the sheep and the flocks, living out under the stars. They're not totally unrelated to our cowboy thing that we have in our country. And it's the kind of stuff written by people who are not shepherds. Being a shepherd is a hard job. Dirty and dangerous and bad hours, and so it's in the minds of city folk, and especially people at court who think, okay, I could leave the court and what do I want to do? Oh, I'll become a shepherd. You get a stick, right? And they decide they want to be a shepherd, but never really. There's something more serious with this, and it's the idea that this is kind of a idyllic space, a return to Eden, as it were. Do I have that? Yes. So In this tradition, our problems with society arise because we have too many rules, man, too many rules. If we could just get rid of all the rules and all the clutter, simplify our lives, everything would be great. And how do we do that? Well, we go out into the pasture, kind of maying, and have the sex. And so that's what Marlowe's shepherd is saying to his shepherdess or nymph, or whichever you want to see it. Come live with me and be my love. That's carpe diem. That's about as far as he ever gets. Remember, we've got this other stuff going on in poetry at the time, these other Latin terms, memento mori, remember you'll die. Tempus fugit, time flies, but he's just focusing on the carpe and the diem. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove that valleys, groves, hills, and fields, woods are steepy mountain yields, and we will sit up on the rocks, seeing the shepherds feed their flocks by shallow rivers to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. And I will make thee beds of roses and 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flower and a kirtle embroidered all with leaves of myrtle. So these are the pleasant pastimes of May Day, of maying. You go a maying, you make flowers into crowns and belts and stuff like that. And it's all very great. But he's going a little further. A gown made of the finest wool, which from our pretty lambs we pull. So I'm actually going to do some work and make you a gown someday. Fair-lined slippers for the cold. Okay, we'll get some slippers too. And buckles of the purest gold. Okay, now he's ready to spend some money. A belt of straw and ivy buds with coral clasps and amber studs. If these pleasures may thee move, come live with me and be my love. The shepherd swains shall dance and sing. So we're going to have dancing and singing and making clothes and of course, all about rolling around in the grass, doing stuff that you don't do back at town. The shepherd swains shall dance and sing for thy delight each May morning. And if these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love. So that's about all he gets. It's a lot of carpe and a lot of diem and a lot of flowers, and it's just fun in May. The reply, the nymph's reply, is much deeper than the passionate shepherd, as nymphs are wont to be in these poems. If all the world and love were young, and truth in every shepherd's tongue. So what did she say? Yeah, this is great. It sounds wonderful. But you shepherds, I've met some of you along the way, and you have a tendency to lie. And also the world is not young. Now, this is a reference to the fall, that in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve sinned. Yeah, they had the madrigals and the roses and the posies and the cap and the kirtle, only they didn't bother with it because they were naked. And they could have the sex, and it was innocent and it was great, it was Edenic, but we don't live in that time anymore. And pretending that we do, pretending this is the Garden of Eden when it's England in May, will be a deep problem for the nymph down the road, if not the shepherd. So if all this were true, if this were the Garden of Eden, if you were going to love me tomorrow, then I might live with you and be your love. But actions have consequences. We live in a fallen world where mistakes can weigh heavily upon the rest of our lives. Time drives the flocks from fields to fold, when rivers rage and rocks grow cold. When Philomel becometh done, the rest of complain of cares to come. Time drives the flocks, tempus fugit. Time flies. So early spring, yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. Of course, for them, early spring is May. We're about 3 months into it here in Louisiana. But in England, where it's cold, the flocks, when it gets 6 months from now, they won't be scampering around the field. They'll be in a fold, huddled up against the cold. So the seasons change, and that shows the passage of time. You come wooing in May, you go running away in November. The flowers do fade, and wanton fields to wayward winter reckoning yields. These words, wanton, can mean wanton growth, the growth of springtime as everything's popping up, but also wanton lifestyle means you're having sex all the time. Wayward, similar double meaning. So the wanton fields that are growing so much, when wayward winter comes, it brings the reckoning. These fields will die. All the flowers will be gone. The growth will be dying back. Everything's turning brown. And winter is settling in. Soon there'll be snow. And oh, by the way, I'm pregnant. And where's my shepherd now? My shepherd's run off after his flock somewhere, and it's showing back up. A honey tongue, oh honey, 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 a heart of gall is fancy's spring, but sorrow's fall. Once again, a double entendre, 3 of these in this one paragraph, or stanza, excuse me. Fall means the fall of the year, but you can also say autumn, although it would rhyme, but the fall of humans, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. So this thing that you're proposing sounds great, but there will come a season of the year, the fall, the autumn, when all of these flowers are dead, the sheep are gone from the fields, and where are you? I don't know. And I'm suddenly a fallen woman, which is the old way of saying a woman who has had sex without benefit of marriage and has gotten pregnant, and now everybody looks at her funny. Did y'all read Scarlet Letter in high school? Kind of like that. Thy gowns, thy shoes, thy bed of roses, thy cap, thy kirtle, and thy posy soon breaks and withers, soon forgotten, in folly ripe, in reason rotten. Oh, that's great. So all that stuff you made me, it's dead now. And it's ripe in folly. I've been foolish to listen to that. My reason is rotten if I listen to that. So we're back to overcoming the flesh with the spirit, the body with the mind. The mind is supposed to govern the body, and her body is saying, oh yeah, let's go frolic in the May Day fun and have some sex in the grass and make roses. And all of this is going to blow up as soon as she gets pregnant. And everybody's like, oh my God. And for him, it's the wagging tongues that are the problem, but for her, it's the being pregnant that's the problem. The gown, oh, we did that. The belt of straw and ivy buds, thy chloral clasps and amber studs, all these in me no means can move to come to thee and be thy love. So the stuff you're offering is not worth what I'm going to lose. But could youth last and love still breed, had joys no dates, nor age no need, then these delights my mind might move to live with me and be thy love. So here's where this gets unusual. Let's see what all right, where's my PowerPoint? Okay, so in our normal uh, formulation in poetry of this era, it runs something like this: carpe, tempus fugit, carpe diem, crap, tempus fugit. So normally the poetic argument will go, time flies, you will die, therefore we should seize the day because we don't have that much time. And we'll get more poems like that as we go. The books are full of them. What Ralegh does is turn this on its head. And he says, yes, time flies. Yes, we will die. Therefore, we cannot carpe diem because our actions matter a great deal. You can't just dally around like the gods did and have forever to, do other stuff. Our life is bounded by time and death, and the consequences for our actions are quite harsh. And therefore, you can't carpe diem. So yeah, the time flies. Spring turns into fall. Yes, all this stuff dies. Yes, your love dies, and you're going to be down the road, and I'm going to be stuck taking care of this baby all by myself. Therefore, I am not going to carpe the diem with you. There's a song that kind of summarized. Are y'all familiar with the Georgia satellites? I am going to pause the recording. Excellent. Thank you for reminding me to start back. We have been enjoying the Georgia satellite. Well, I'm not sure enjoying is the term, but we've been watching the Georgia satellites pick up this old theme. Now let's look at Queen Elizabeth, the doubt of future foes.
The first one?
Yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, it's 16 lines. I thought for a moment that might be a sonnet. Maybe it's a royal sonnet. The doubt of future foes exiles my present joy. Oh, and 12 syllables instead of 10. So hexameter, the doubt of future foes. It's still a dactylic, I mean, not dactylic, iambic. So the doubt or worry of my future foes exiles my present joy. And with me warns to shun such snares as threaten mine annoy. So there's snares I've got to be aware of. She's got all kinds of problems surrounding her life, both before the throne and after. She was just barely not executed by her sister, who died before she had time. And then Mary, Queen of Scots, had designs, or at least her advisors did, and the Spanish sent their armada. So there's just a lot of stuff going on in her life that makes her worried. And she's ruling over a bunch of guys that have never really been ruled over by a woman before. Mary was brief and miserable, so that didn't set much of a good example. So she's got a lot of stuff to worry about. For falsehood now doth flow, and subjects' faith doth ebb. So people lie to me, my subjects are not loyal, which should not be if reason ruled or wisdom weaved the web. So if reason and wisdom were ruling the world, then I wouldn't have all these problems now, would I? But clouds of joy and tried to cloak aspiring minds, which turn to rain of late repent by changed course of winds. The top of hope supposed the root upreared to be, and fruitless all their grafted guile, as shortly you shall see. So the rotor's fickle. She hopes that she will be able to lay low their crafted guile. So all these friendly people around her who are really lying, she's going to take care of them because, off with their heads. The dazzled eyes with pride which great ambition blinds shall be unsealed by worthy weights whose foresight faults it finds. So there are people all around her blinded by ambition. The reason they're her friend is she has power and they want some of it. The daughter of debate that discord eye doth sow shall reap no gain where former rules shall still peace hath taught to know. The foreign banished white shall anchor in this port. We will kick the Spanish ass, I say. Our realm brooks, not seditious sects. Let them elsewhere report. So Catholics can just get on a boat and leave. My rusty sword to rest shall first his edge employ to hold it tops that keeps it sane.
Mic is messing up.
For future joy. What's that?
Oh, never mind. Your mic went all fuzzy for a second, but it's good now.
Yeah, we're only as good as the internet connection. So she's going to get her rusty sword off and off with their heads. A lovely last line of a poem. Thing about when the queen reads her poetry, everybody's like, ugh. They wore those big things around their neck for a reason back then. On Monsieur's departure, could it be Sir Walter Raleigh? Maybe, because he's the only one we know. She had a lot of Monsieurs, though. Elizabeth stayed in power by deploying the old medieval idea of courtly love, which, was kind of ready-made for such a thing. You treat your lady love the way you treat your king, your liege. And so she's flirting with these men, occasionally, possibly seriously considering marriage, but the problem is she's worried that she'll get married and he'll want to be the king and have her go and do her own, go tend to the knitting. And she wants to be the ruler. And so that gets in the way of her being able to marry. They don't have the tradition of the prince consort the way that they do now. Who was Victoria's? No. Who was Victoria married to? I should know this. Albert, Prince Albert. And Queen Elizabeth II. There's no way I know that one.
Old girl still kicking.
Oh, yeah, man. She won't die and she won't abdicate. I remember seeing a 60 Minutes interview and story on Prince Charles. Bonnie Prince Charles, he's really going to remake the throne. Dude's like 80 years old himself now. He's not remaking anything. And so, where are we going with this? Oh, she didn't marry. At this point, the English have it well worked out where you can have a queen and a prince consort, and he's not the king, he's the prince consort. But they didn't have that at the time. So she dallies with these guys and lets them think she might marry them, but she never quite does. And maybe there's a real guy that she's really in love with and he goes away, or maybe this is just a poem to encourage all the guys to think that she's longing for them in their absence. I grieve. Let's try this one out. I grieve and dare not show my discontent. 10. And I grieve and dare not show iambic. So it's iambic pentameter. All right. I grieve and dare not show my discontent. I love and yet am forced to seem to hate. Oh, oxymorons. I do yet dare not say I ever meant. I seem stark, mute, but inwardly do prate. So inside I'm talking, outside I'm just sitting here. What did they do to make her skin so white? Like make egg whites and paste them over her face or something like that. But once Queen does it, it's all the style for everybody. Everybody's rubbing their face with egg whites. I am and not, I freeze, and yet I'm burned, since from myself another self I turned. So all these oxymorons get really old really fast. My care is like my shadow in the sun, follows me flying, flies when I pursue it. So another, by now kind of old, the person that I love, when I chase them, they run. When I run away, they chase me. We can't ever get together. Stands and lies by me, doth what I have done. He is too familiar care, doth make me rue it, nor means I find to rid him from my breast, to by the end of things it be suppressed. So I'm loving him, and the only way out is to die, the end of things. Some gentler passions slide into my mind, for I am soft and made of melting snow. Or be more cruel, love, and be so kind. Let me float or sink, be high or low, or let me live with some more content, or die and so forget what love e'er meant. So let me deal with this somewhat. See what can give one of us ease. It'd be nice if it were Sir Walter Raleigh. I'm just not sure she was that into him. All right, so the Catholic Church was not too keen on the translating of the Bible into vernacular, that is common languages, not Latin. They were worried that it would give rise to heresies as people read and misunderstood the Bible without the beneficial intervention of the priest and the church. And so they early on suppressed English translations. Later, when the country became Protestant, translations became necessary because Protestants believed in individuals having their own copies of the Bible, and this was greatly aided by the intervention at the time of the Reformation. You also have the printing press, and so Bibles are cheap. I think we may have talked about the St. John's Bible the other day. Do you remember what it cost? It's the first full manuscript of the Christian Bible that's been made since the medieval period. You can get the whole thing reprinted. And a whole thing reprinted for $160. But the original manuscript costs the St. John's Monastery $10 million to make. So this is just one page out of it. They got the Queen's calligrapher to do the handwriting, and he also did the art. And when he wants to use gold paint, he uses real gold. So the material it's written on is not paper, it's animal skin parchment. So very expensive materials, plus the Queen's calligrapher is not cheap to hire. So when Bibles cost that much, nobody had one except the church and a few extraordinarily rich people. But now in this period with the Queen Elizabeth, you've got the printing press, you've got Protestants, so you're getting more and more versions of the Bible. So John Wycliffe did a handwritten translation in the 1380s. Wasn't he dug up? Yes. He died of natural causes, and the Pope was so upset that 44 years later, he had the bones dug up, crushed, and scattered in the river. Gutenberg invents the printing press, 1450s. First book is the Gutenberg Bible, which is in Latin. Tyndall does a translation. What is his translation? They don't need Erasmus. Oh, here we go. 1525 to 1526. So the printing press has been around for a few decades. They have to print these out of the country and smuggle them in. And when the Catholics find them, because at this point the nation's still Catholic, they burn them. So this is the first printing press Bible in the English language. Coverdale writes the version, let's see, 1539. Thomas Cranmer, Archbishop of Canterbury, gets Coverdale to publish the Great Bible. This is the first authorized Bible, authorized by the King and the Church of England. All right. Another really important Bible is the Geneva Bible. It's made in Geneva because these are extremist Protestants who, I mean, we think of them today as right-wing extremists. Because they were fighting the establishment, they thought of themselves as left-wing extremists, and they're very Calvinistic. They have a tendency to translate the word melech, normally translated king, as tyrant. Put lots of notes that are very subversive against the powers that be back in England. And it's also the first Bible with chapters and verses. With all the verses that we're familiar with. When King James took over, he authorized a new translation to try to displace the Geneva, and he gathered a committee that included William Shakespeare and other great writers as well as great scholars, and came up with what's the literary translation of the Christian Bible into English. It's the one that everybody quotes for 400 years, from Pilgrim's Progress by Dante all the way down to Martin Luther King in his I Have a Dream speech. They all quote the King James. Okay, so this is how the Geneva Bible looks. Let's see if I can zoom in some. All right, so it's a study Bible. You can see there are notes at the top, marginal notes, chapter heading notes, then chapter and verses. We won't try to read this one. But that's what they had. Okay, let's read a little of Wycliffe. Blessed be poor men in spirit, for the kingdom of heavens is theirs. Blessed be the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Blessed be mild men, for they shall wield the earth. Blessed be they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed be they that hunger and thirst right wiseness, for they shall be fulfilled. Blessed be merciful men, for they shall get mercy. Blessed be they of clean heart, for they shall see God. It's not totally unfamiliar to the King James, but it is distinct. Let's take a look at John 1. In the beginning was that Word, and the Word was with God, and God was that Word. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by it, and without it was no thing that was made. That made was. Whew, tough. And without it was made no thing that was made. In it was life, and life was the light of men. Oh, by the way, until fairly recently, I and J were kind of interchangeable. They're both from the same letter. The J's the consonantal version of I, and sometimes the J form will be for I, the vowel, I guess, because it's the beginning of a word. I don't know. Here's John, but this is N, not Jin. All right, that's probably enough of that. Let's look at Psalm 1 in the Coverdale. Is the Coverdale working? Let's let that cook while we move on to the Geneva Bible. All right, here we go. Okay, so Psalm 1, or as it's better known, Beatus vir qui non habit. Blessed the man who has not walked. Blessed is the man that hath not walked in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stood in the way of sinners, and hath not sat in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law will he exercise himself day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the waterside that will bring forth his fruit in due season. His leaf also shall not wither, and look, whatsoever he doeth, it shall prosper. So notice no verse numbers. I seem to have X'd out of everything. Hold on. Back we go. Was that the Geneva? I don't think so. Let's compare it to the Geneva. Ooh, one thing tough, right? Can I blow this up? Blessed is the man that doth not walk in the counsel of the wicked. Oh, and also the long S. Sometimes S looks like an F. And you just have to be able to figure out which is which. The counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Very close to the King James, very close. Let's do Psalm 1 in the King James. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of the sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by rivers, the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. So this is the one which, in combination of the official weight of the state and the official weight of the church and the inherent beauty of the translation, dominated biblical translations for centuries. We have a ton of translations now, just as we see a bunch of translations early on. For a long time, this was the English Bible. There were still people saying that when I grew up. In fact, I used to say that. In fact, that's the one I teach today because it's the one that has the influence on English language and English literature. All right, any questions about the readings? Any questions about anything else?
All the image files for our group project is I think we're group 9. But
What, say that again?
Surreal experience almost. Sam says Harris took her on a 2.5-hour tour of his house, showing off his.
Was it Pellegrin talking?
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Our group, the image files in the Dropbox aren't working.
Okay.
Scan the pages.
All right. What group are you?
9.
All right. I'll start out with
It's
9. You in there too, Parker?
Yes, sir.
All right. So group 9's first. Anybody else need to see me immediately?
Not about that, but I may have missed it. But have you mentioned when we're going to start working on the research paper?
Oh, we've been working on the research.
Okay. Yeah, I've missed that. All right.
Mostly a joke. Let's go back over that real quick since we're getting close. Did we talk about the research paper?
No.
Fortunately, I have extensive resources. Do y'all see where I am?
Yep.
Yes.
Daily quizzes, research paper, group project attendance. Click here. I'm pretty sure we talked about this as half of the length of a regular research paper, didn't we? Or did we?
I'm sorry. I missed what my internet was on the fritz. I just missed what you said.
I don't think we're done.
So the normal research paper for 102 is 10 pages and 10 sources. So this one is 5 pages, 5 sources. You need a primary source, at least one, and that is the work you are writing about. You need 3 secondary sources and 1 definition from the Rolls-Royce of English language dictionaries. Can anybody tell me what the Rolls-Royce of English language dictionaries is?
Oxford.
We did have this talk.
In a previous class.
Right. Or was it this class? I mean, not today,
Previous.
but
I don't think it
I
was.
don't remember you going over that.
all right. Well, I go over this so much, I
I remember
probably
going
just...
in English.
All right. So this is the OED, all 22 volumes of it. Is that 22? I'm not going to count them. Oh no, 20, volume 20. I see it on the front. But you don't have to get it out of a book. We have access to it through the library. So LaTeX library. Y'all see the search. Go to the library. Go down to not this first navigation bar, but the second one, databases A to Z. And then this being tech, we alphabetize dictionary under the letter O for Oxford. So let's see. What's something we read today? I don't know the word to look up. We did not look up. Surely there's something in the Nymph. Oh, curdle. I don't know what a curdle is. So
And how many of those are we supposed to do?
One OED definition. Click on full entry. A man's tunic or coat. Well, if he's making it for a woman, it's probably not this one, right? A woman's gown. Oh, there we go. This sounds more like it. So in it, you would say, okay, according to the OED, a kirtle can be a woman's gown. And then that's one of your sources. The primary source would be this, the poem itself. And then the other three sources are good, solid, where's that? Oh, if you're off campus, you may have to log in the way you log into a Moodle or your email. I want nice, good, solid scholarly sources. So go back to the same databases and click on J, short for JSTOR. So the nice thing about JSTOR, it means journal storage, and it actually has links to all the articles. So you don't have to go expose yourself and your other students to COVID and the library. You can download it from the safety of your home, where you're just exposing your family and friends to COVID. So look up Nymph's reply. It's also pretty easy to search. Let's go Sir Walter Raleigh. Why is this doing that? This is nuts. Let's see if we can get something better. Defining illusion. The tradition of the invitation poem. And generally, these two poems are so closely paired that, you know, a source that talks about one will usually talk about the other. Oh, and they're spelling Raleigh with just an E these days, so that could be part of the problem. When I was a kid, they spelled it E-I. There we go. So you should be able to find three sources among all these that you can use in your paper. Okay, so once again, 5 sources.
So is there a rubric for this on
Oh,
the
yes.
Moodle page? Okay.
I would suggest a thorough acquaintance of all this material. So I have a research paper page.
Okay.
If you don't know what a thesis is, It is a simple declarative sentence that states the opinion you're trying to prove in your paper. If that does not ring any bells, I have a thesis guide sheet with a lecture, a audio lecture, a video lecture, article, and then exercises. So I would read the article, do the exercises, and then listen to the lecture where I go over which of these are thesis statements and which of these are good thesis statements. We won't do that in this class. But it's here if you need it. If you remember, oh yeah, thesis, right, done. If you don't, come here. We need these 5 things in a bibliography. We go over writing a bibliography. This is the old easybib.com interface. They've changed it some. Also, Word. When you're working in Word, it will do bibliography for you as well. I'm not sure if Google Docs does. Does anybody know?
You can add extensions that'll do it, but that's
cool.
the best I can figure out. Very well.
EasyBib will do it for free if it's MLA, and you can use either 7 or 8. Just let it generate the bibliography it wants to generate and copy and paste that in. It's double-spaced, hanging indent, alphabetized, no numbers. If any of that is confusing, then just copy and paste from, you download the Word document from EasyBib, and then you paste it in. And I've got a whole period's worth of us doing that. I don't guess I got it on video. Maybe I'll do that next quarter. Okay, we've got a grading of a research paper. There's the research paper. Here's the grading lecture. All right, we're starting the recording so we can post it if anybody, but use them in basically the same way. All right, so you can, it's almost like being on Zoom. Here are various approaches to analyzing literature. The 2 things I do not want, mark this, highlight it, remember it. Don't give me the biography of the author, and don't retell this story. Seriously, don't. If you could write as well as Shakespeare, you wouldn't be in the class. If I could write as well as Shakespeare, I would not be teaching this class. So that means we need, what's that?
What's a GER though?
So anyway, there are all these kinds of ways that you can analyze literature. And if these aren't enough for you, then you can click on the critical theory trading cards, where they have like dozens of these approaches. Now, probably the best approach for you, given the time constraints, the fact this is not primarily a writing class, is to pick out what you want to write about, or at least don't want to write about. Look up several articles and see what the issues are. And once you know those issues, you know what's at stake in this to write about. What do people find important? And then that'll give you a guideline as to the approach for you to use. Does that make sense? And then we have a lecture where I grade a research paper. I think we may grade 2 according to the rubric. And so here are the things I'm looking for. A thesis. B, topic sense. Now, where does a teacher who has 4 classes with 100 students in all the classes together, all coming in at the end of the quarter to grade, where is that teacher going to look for a thesis statement?
The first
Will
one.
you, I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, will you go back to your note that you started making
It was based on this, I think.
Okay, yeah, it makes more sense, like in a small, concise note.
I might add that to it then. All right, so where do I look for a thesis?
The first paragraph.
Right, but where, yeah, that's good. So we've got
The
it
end of
narrowed
the
down.
first paragraph.
Where in the first paragraph?
The end of the first paragraph.
Either the end or the beginning. So I look at the first sentence, I look at the last sentence. I then start checking for topic sentences, and where do I look for those?
The beginning of each paragraph.
Yes. So the first sentence of each paragraph should be a simple declarative sentence stating the idea you are trying to demonstrate in that paragraph. So it's exactly like a thesis, which makes it really important. What's that? 2, 6, 1/3, 33% of your grade is just these sentences. So you want to get them right. And that means listening to that lecture, doing those exercises, etc. You need to cite a primary source. That's the evidence you use. I suggest in each body paragraph that there be 2 brief quotes from the primary source and 2 brief quotes from the secondary. That gives us a total of how many quotes per paragraph? Any math people? Math? Is this thing on? Are you getting enough oxygen? How many quotes per paragraph do I want? Two primary plus 2 secondary. Come on, somebody put it
4.
together. 4, that's 4, right, very good. And then I'm going to grade it on how well written it is and the grammar. So do you want to grade a sample research paper since we... Do you want to do this or do you want to watch it on video?
Watch some video.
All right, anybody else? Well, let's do the counting anyway. How many quotes do we have in this paragraph?
2.
2. Is that enough?
No.
No, and you can actually tell it without even reading. How? How can I tell before I even read this thing that it won't have enough quotes in it?
It doesn't even have like 4 sentences.
Yeah, it's too short. Okay, so here we've got a secondary, 1 primary, another secondary. So 2 secondaries, 1 primary, closer, but still 3 and not 4. This one, we have 1 quote. So he's not doing the quotes thing. Anyway, listen to this. If you have any questions, you can ask me on Thursday. Is today Tuesday? Yeah. So work through this material, and if you want to go over it some in class, we can do that. Any more questions for today for the paper? So first thesis, second topic sentences, third quotes from the story or poem, fourth quotes from 4 other secondary sources, E, well-written, F, grammar. Okay, what were you saying? Was it Bass?
Yeah, I'm still confused. Hold on a second. How do we do 4 quotes in a paragraph? That's with analysis. That's a lot.
Well, yeah, they're short. There are only a few paragraphs in a 5-page one. Did I have the? I mean, I think he actually did it some. They're brief quotes. Where's our sample? Well, they need to be well-developed paragraphs. Does he have any? This is closer. So this is one, Vonnegut. See, that's short. This is short. 3, 4. So you see how that works? He actually got the 4 in this one. And they aren't long quotes. They're just brief quotes to support his argument. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with that, where do you stand on box quotes?
Block quotes are good if you want to, if it's going to be longer than 3 lines, and it's fine to do that. You just don't want to do it a whole lot. And don't make your whole paper a block quote. You still have to make an argument. So this is our grading of that. It ranges between 67
I have
and
one more
75.
question. How do we weave the definition into our research paper? It
Just
to
like
me
you
it would
do.
seem out of place.
Just like you do any quote, according to the OED, a curdle is a woman scout. And then you put the quotes around it, and then you know, just move on. Just have curdle in quotes, and then at the bottom, you put it in as a dictionary definition. There's a form for that in the Easy Bib.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
It'll, you know, these old things have so many unusual words. You just have to pick one of them and define it. Any more paper stuff?
I don't know if you've said it or if it was on that. We've been over it, but did you say you want this in MLA or?
Oh yeah, definitely MLA.
Okay.
The only I did kind of halfway mention it when I talked about EasyBib. They charge you for a lot of their formats, but MLA is free, so that makes it that much better.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was just having to write something in the Chicago Manual of Style, and you just think the MLA is a pain. Chicago, oi. But all these printers, that's what they want to use, the Chicago Manual, because it goes way into printing in a lot of other areas besides just format. Anyway, anything else?
Someone in the chat asked, how many paragraphs do we do?
Just 5 pages worth. These are, you know, you should have at least 1 paragraph break per page to keep it moving generally. So, you know, 5 paragraphs of the body, 1 paragraph intro. Conclusion, whether you need a paragraph for that, it's up to you. And don't get bogged down. This is a short one compared to what you did in 102. It's just to keep those skills sharp.
Okay, back to the like using the definition. Do we
Mhm.
use a different definition in each paragraph? Because I know you said the
No, well, you can if you want to, but you only need 1.
okay, and I only need that for like 1 paragraph, or do I need to like
No,
use it?
just 1 definition of the whole paper. I just want y'all to have the experience of looking up words in the OED. So,
Okay.
it's like getting to ride in a limo after you've been driving a Volkswagen. It's just, the OED.
Someone else asked if it's single space.
Oh no, double spaced. MLA is continuously double spaced. Let's take a look at the paper. It's not a great paper, but he at least gets that. So see how this is double spaced throughout? Oh no. Oh, this was in the student packet, and to save money on printing, this is not quite an inch and this is not quite double spaced, which to me is not a good thing. Let's see. Now remember, all these sample essays that we have are in the database for Turnitin, so don't just copy it. I'm always amazed at how many people copy these papers as though we've never, don't have access to them. All right, so see how this is double spaced? Here's a block quote. That should be double indented, not single.
So these would be examples of a good paper that we could look at,
Yeah.
reference to. Okay, good.
Yeah, if you go to my website, I've got the writing contest winners for the last several years. And I think they're 200 level, yeah. Oh, this was one of mine. One of my ones. So I would suggest looking at Crooks's Ancient Mariner and Frankenstein. One, two, three, four, five. So see, 5 sources. It's a little shorter than the full research paper. 5 pages. 1, 2. Yes, 5.
So
Probably
about
could have used a few more sources. Well,
About-
she had two primary. Yeah, go ahead.
the group project.
Yes.
Our the scanned pages won't show up in the Dropbox file. They're just broken image files.
Okay, so what group is that?
Group 9.
Group 9. And who was the other group that needed help?
It was just us. I'm just mentioning it again, I think. Might have been someone else.
Did anybody else need help? All right, are you guys ready to get to your groups? Get you to a nunnery.
Oh, group 11 might need some help.
All right, 9 first, then 11. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to break you up. No more questions about this. I'm going to stop the recording.